save, and it's recording. Nice. So you can see my webpage here. I assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So we will be discussing today something really important, and because if you think about like sort of any web app or something, it's mostly it really involves data fetching, everything around the web. If you go to Google, if you go to Facebook, if you go to sort of anything the whole concept around web is just about like fetching data and posting some data and changing some data. So this is something we didn't do yet. And I assume that you are actually capable of doing it. Maybe you just cannot see that due to the mismatch in your head around how React works. But we will use the state concept and the lifecycle concept and compose them together to be able to achieve sort of proper clean data fetching ways. And I assume everybody is familiar with data fetching. What does it mean? It just means grabbing some data from the internet. You have been doing it with fetch and promises for as long as I remember. I have a project here. I would just say code. And I will, so you can see my screen here. I will just zoom in a bit. I will go to source and delete everything. Yeah, so I will delete literally everything here. App CSS, app index, and I will keep only these two. I would say delete. Move to trash. It's nice. So now we delete this, and app we have now div data views div test. We don't have app, we have index.html. We make this an h1, and we go to npm start. This should give us oh, it's open here. Let's do it just because I have a new another window. Sorry. So we have this thing here with the console open and everything. So let's maybe start by, I don't know if somebody has a small sort of API to sort of experiment with. I usually try to do it with the Giphy API. There's also the Pokemon API. I don't know what it's a per class thing. I don't know which API you really like. I usually use the Giphy.
Pokemon.
Okay, I see some Pokemon fan here. Let's go with that, if it does work. So, if we go to, so this is the Pokemon API code. I hope it's right. Looks like it, right? So we can say Pokemon. So I'm more interested in a search for Pokemon. So can we say search? Shape? No. Is this the name? So if we say list, maybe resources list. Yeah, we can say here, if we take this for example.
Lucha, this is like the Poke tab, which gives information of Pokemon, the ability and the name.
Exactly. Yeah. It is exactly that. So if we resource and named, where's I'm just trying to find an endpoint where we can search for moves, machines, location, items. What does items? No resource, games, evolution, encounters, context. Ah, damn it. So I will Google it. Pokemon API search. This is just this is wait, so they don't have a search feature? That's stupid.
Otherwise, it's okay with anyone, any API.
It doesn't.
It was fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. It's just it doesn't seem that it supports actually proper.
If can I say something? We have a link for the API in our homework. We can maybe use that.
You think so? I think that's like too boring. That's like really boring. Like I was also experimenting with doing something around like coronavirus numbers, so we can do it like per country or something. But it's just pain in the ass to actually set up the and it's not up to date. So most of them they are not like it. So let's say React. There is actually a lesson plan. API. Fuck, that's like stupid API. It should not be this one. Just a second. The preparation. This API looks pretty interesting actually. Is this prompt? If somebody has question in the meanwhile or something, just shoot it up. Shoot it. Default number of cats. Okay. That's your role.
This might not be related to concept itself, but maybe before we finish today's class, I would like to know if we will have any time frame to bother you during Pasco. Because it might happen that we are doing our homework and we have questions, and you're going to be in the Pasco break, right? So I would like to know if we are organized about it. Because we are not going to have Zendesk groups either.
I didn't quite get exactly what you mean, honestly.
We're going to be 2 weeks without meeting
Yes.
each other. So
For
I
me,
really
at least,
hope
for me, at least, you are more than welcome to write me anytime.
okay.
So
That's perfect.
yeah, that's for me.
So we don't bother the mentors during their break, right? So, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
You can also message me as well during the Easter break. I'm sometimes a bit slow to respond, but usually in the evenings I can get to any questions, and I'm happy to field them even over Easter.
Let's say login. This is
Perfect. Thanks a million.
yeah. I will log in with my Facebook, honestly. So we need an API key. I don't know if people are familiar with what an API key is actually. Continue as Yunus.
Yes, we work with them.
Nice. So let's go to the doc and say, what? I just logged in now. This is pretty, yeah, okay. Generate an app, SDK, selecting. Give API, next step. It's a test app and using it for testing some APIs. Create app. And now I can get the, please don't use this API key. If we go to the doc and see API endpoints, search. Search. So how? So it's called API key. So we need API key. API/key. We say equal, and we do this. This doesn't look like it has any data, and of course it doesn't have any data because we are trying to search. So search, and we say Q. We say Q and Q equal. So say cats. Nice, lure of cats. So I have a proper URL. This is like what I do usually. I just try to test the URL and see. So let's start by putting this URL here, and let's start by creating a component. And let's say it. Let's call it like a Giphy list. Let's call it a Giphy list, for example. So let's say class Giphy list extends React.component. It has a render method. It returns a UL. With one single li and a test inside it. That's what we're gonna do. If we come here again, we refresh. Yeah, this doesn't work. Why this doesn't work? Why it's not showing me the UL with the LS?
Because you need to wrap it up with brackets. No?
Wrap what in brackets?
The return, the UI, the UL.
Nope,
Parentheses.
that's not right.
Yeah.
H1, the text inside H1.
React DOM, you need to put the GIF
List, yeah.
GIF list in the React DOM render.
Exactly, because if you think about it, you are right, absolutely. So what we
Yes.
put here will be rendered, and we are not putting Giphy list. So instead, we should put a Giphy list here. So we need to do this. You can put it inside the H1 or something, up to you, but I will do it this way. Make sense? And the way I would like to do it is
Yes.
by creating app. Let's say, let's do a function component, function app, return this. And here we say app. Now, if you refresh, we have here our UL. That is nice. So, what I want now is actually a way of fetching data. So, before doing that, I need to fetch something. And to fetch something, I need to use the fetch API. So let's proceed with actually just doing a simple fetch API. So if I will say here function, fetch GIFs or GIFs or however you like to pronounce it. And it's like this. It will take a query. I will name it Q, or we can keep it query here. And it will do a fetch of this URL. So we can say const URL equal to this. Is everybody familiar here with the syntax? How it's called, the template syntax, where you can do, for example, instead of doing const x equal hello
Yes, we are working with
plus variable,
Backtick.
you actually do this. You do this.
yeah.
Is everybody familiar with the difference between these two?
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. So instead of here having the API key like this, what I'm gonna do this. API key. Const API key. And we can do query is query. And we can say fetch URL dot then just a normal thing. We can say response .json .then. Are you familiar with the async await? Is everybody familiar with async await here?
No.
We have worked with something similar to this, right?
Nice, nice. So I will just stick with this then. And we can say body console.log body. And now we have a function, we just need to call it. Let's say fetch gifs. Say cats. We should see console.log, technically. Yeah, we see console.log with some 25 data and pagination and some meta. Is this right? For everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice, 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 nice. So now we see that the way we fetch data is just pretty normal. We just use the fetch API with some URLs and we parse the JSON. There's nothing really different. But the crucial thing is like when to call this. We cannot really call it here. We need the place where we call it. And this is like an open-ended discussion, but there is some sort of best practices around it. And sort of the most famous pattern how to use it is that, and logically speaking, if I will ask you, if this component fetch some data, where is the best place to fetch data inside this component? When we are sure that this component is on the screen and we are ready to fetch some data. If I would, for example, put it here, is this a good idea?
No, it should be inside the LI.
If I will put it here, it means every time we render, we will fetch the data.
We do state.
If we do state, but
Yeah.
where we fetch it, which part of the code we put it. I will just give you a hint, and let's say after this component is done and it's mounted on the screen, I want to show
something
and start loading something. So I don't want to load before this component is on the screen because maybe it will be hidden, maybe it will not be mounted.
In function add, should we put it?
If you can.
component that mount we did.
I hear some noise. If somebody.
Amir's speaker is now you get me.
Nice. So I would say, logically speaking, as I said before, we want to fetch it when this component is on the screen. If this component is not rendered, we don't want to fetch. That kind of makes sense. And the best place that we know and we are sure that it will run after the component is on the screen is the component did mount. What does that mean? It means that once the component is ready and it's on the screen and it's done mounting, after the render, it's done mounting, we start fetching. Does this make sense? Conceptually, at least, not like details, but conceptually?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so after the component is on the screen and it's done rendering, we want to fetch something. And as you said before, we want to keep it inside the state. So let's say we say fetch cats here, and we say .then, because this returns a promise. And we can move this one here. So now if we for example console log here, console.log render, we have render, and after that we have fetch data. Does this make sense? This is like more safer, that I will fetch the data once I'm sure that this component is mounted. And you can think about it, for example, in YouTube. They will not load the video unless you click and the video is on the screen. They will start loading it. Otherwise, there will be a lot of problems with loading 7, 8 videos. They will make sure to only load the video that is on the screen. Facebook, if you load the Facebook page and you have a post, they will not load the comments for the post until you click load comments, and they will show 1, 2. But if you want to show the whole list of comments, they will do it once the component of the comments appears. in your friends list, once you click on one of your friends, the pop-up will show, and they will load its messages. So they will not load all the messages that you've texted with all the people. No, they will do that after you clicked on one of them and you showed intention that you are trying to look for it. So this is the pattern that it's adopted by React, and it's not just React, it's like all over. You should not fetch the data until you need it. And when you are sure that you need it is once the component is rendered on the screen. And which hint is given to us by React that the component is already on the screen is the component did mount. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Cool. So we have this now. Now what I want to do is I want to get the list. So I want to say here const images or const gifs equal something. Something is what? So I need a way when this is done to store it somewhere where I can store it. Can somebody give us an idea when this can be
In a
stored?
state.
Why it's the state? If you can justify.
Because this is what am I gonna have, and I need to like keep this in the same way that I keep the list before, or maybe I'm confused. I'm sorry.
No, just try to justify why. I think that sort of shows to so many people like the analogy that you are using.
I will storage this in a state
Yeah.
because it's been rendering the UI. And if I make any kind of modifications in the query, I should modify the response that I'm having in the UI.
It is exactly what you're saying. That is a really good sort of explanation. And I can generalize it more and say what we render depends on what we fetch.
Mhm.
If we say it in plain English, what we are rendering is really based on what we fetch. And what we fetch is also based on what we render, because the cats inside fetch gifs is also impacted. But if I will have an input and I write the search term, I want fetch gifs to search for that search term, not be statically cat. So we see this two way, that what we fetch is needed in the render, and what's in the render is needed by what's in the fetch. So we can see clearly that it's state. It is not a prop. It is not anything else. It is state, and it's exactly why you said that. So let's try and do that. And yeah, let's just do this. Yes.
I have a question, Yunus. So why not in props? What is the justification for that?
Because props is given by a parent. We cannot really manipulate or change props inside a component.
Yeah.
Props
Okay.
is something given by a parent. I can only read prop.
Okay.
Does that make sense? State is the only way that I'm freely able to do whatever I want to it. Set
Okay.
it,
Yeah.
change it. But prop, if a parent give me index equal 5 as a prop,
Yeah.
or data equal to 5 gifs as a prop, I cannot fetch or do anything to that prop.
Yeah. True.
It's controlled by
Yes,
the
yes.
parent.
Yeah.
So we have a state here. And so what we need is, let's say here, gifs. And it's an empty array. If we go a bit further, if you really think about it, whenever you are in Google and you are searching, or you are like waiting for something, or what you are requesting something, there's sort of a loading state. Is that right? So while the request is happening, if it will take 4 seconds, we want to show the user a spinner or something that this thing is loading. Instead of just like waiting for the data, just waiting for the GIFs. Imagine if YouTube would not show you the video until you get the video. There is no loading, there's no anything. It will be super frustrating for a slow screen. Same thing for Facebook. If it's loading your messages and it doesn't show you a spinner, you're not sure. Is it failing? Is it loading? Am I not logged in? Is it a problem with my browser? Is my computer a crap? What's happening? So that is quite annoying. So we want also to maintain a separate variable to say we are done loading, we are not loading, we are loading. Does that make sense? Nice. So let's store variable and call it is loading. and let's say it's false or it's true. Let's assume that in the beginning it's true because I'm loading by default, because I'm doing it when the component did not. This is a sort of a broken conception, but I think that is fine for our case. And once we are here, after this fetch gifs is done, I can say this dot set state gifs is what? If you see here, is data. So I can say body dot data, and is loading is false. Does this make sense? That I changed the state after I got the response? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So now I can easily bring something from the state. I can say this dot state here, and I can use destructuring and say is loading and gifs. And what I can do is just plain JavaScript. I can say if is loading, return in h1 loading, else return this. And if I
Yeah, you need to put all of that in the return or no, render and all of this.
This is return. If something return this, else return this. So we are saying,
Are we fetching an object? Should we map to just get the images?
yeah, but we are still sort of focusing on the is loading state now.
Okay.
We can just go one step at a time. So if I will make my network slow here, which is something I can do, but if you live in a place where internet is slow, that is something you get by default. So you can see here, if I will load this, it will say loading. After that, test. Does this make sense? I think this is a better user experience. The user will not be frustrated. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. Yes.
So this is better. So now what we can do is render the GIFs. And to render the GIFs, what I'm gonna do is build a component. Oh, okay, I will delete this from here. I will build a component called glass if item. We can also make it a function. And we can say return li. So we know that GIFs is an array. We know that because the if I would just make it online back, we know it's an array because data is an array. We know that it's an array. So what we can do is just map over it the same way we did before for to-do lists and everything. So we can say here gifs.map, and we can say Giphy. We can say Giphy item. We can do this. Do I have some? No, I don't have that, which is pretty in my format. Save without format document. Yes, if we have this. Is this clear? Of course, we still didn't sort of manipulate or show any images, but is this clear? The way we are mapping over GIFs and rendering a separate component. Of course, this component doesn't do anything. We just have TTTT. But is this concept clear?
Yeah, for me, yes.
Nice.
Can I ask you, what defines the amount of TTTs you're going to be rendering?
It's based on how many items we got in the gifts array or the body.data, how many items we have there.
And how? Uh,
So it's based on an API return. If Giphy decided to give us 30 images, we would have 30. If Giphy decided to give us 20, we have 20. So it's a dynamic number defined by the people who built the Giphy API.
okay, so it's not something that I can handle.
No, and if you look here in the Giphy search, we have an array here.
24 items, so 24 TTTs.
So 25 because it starts with 0. It's 0 index.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
The developer mindset would start with 0. How many children do you have? 0, 1, 2, 3. But
Okay.
so it's 25, and I think there is an option in the Giphy to say a limit. So if we say here limit something, it will say 30, or you can see here the maximum number of objects to return, default 25. You can change that by passing a limit query. So if we go here and we say 7, and we say limit, or just limit, we can say here, we can say 20, and see if this works actually.
Yes.
We have 20.
Perfect.
Okay, so it's not really something we decide. It's more of an API thing. Like Facebook, they don't know how many times you message your friend. It's just the code is written that way. You just map over the message and display them.
I have a question now.
Yes, go ahead, of course.
Why did you decide to put the Giphy item as a separate component, not inside this?
Yes, I would say the first primary reason for that is that how I want to display the Giphy item, how it's styled, how it's structured HTML. I don't want it to be duplicated. I want to be like living in a separate place where I can just change it. So I can go and change how the Giphy item looks like without thinking about all this component. So this is separation of concern. Splitting the things so I can think about them separately. The way I fetch things are in one place, and the way I display the item is in a different place. That makes it manageable for my mind to think about them separately.
Yeah.
The same
I have
way,
one more
It's
question.
going to be like a personal choice, right?
it's a personal choice, but at the same time, it's also, if I put it here, the complexity of this component will increase.
Yeah. That is, yeah.
It is a personal choice, but there's also best practices around how you can structure your code to be betterly readable and understandable.
Yeah.
But for this smaller example, I agree. It's a choice because this component is too small to think about that. So you are right, yes. Let's see the structure of a Giphy. So we have a type GIF for each item. We have an ID. We can use the ID as a key. So we can see here GIF, and we can say key equal GIF dot ID, and that's so we can kill this warning. Instead of using the ID and instead of using the index, we can have a proper ID.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. What are you doing here? I don't get it. It was.
Yes, so when we display a list of items like the to-do list,
Yeah.
we need sort of to supply an ID for the list items.
Yeah, that I understood, but how the GIF that you pass inside the parameters, how can it how are you writing it inside the component? So that I'm not sure that I've seen it before.
Yes. So let's console log GIFs here. Console log GIFs. Make sense? We do this. We go here. It's an array of 20 items.
Yeah.
And each item is an object that has this listed properties here.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So when I say GIFs of 0, it will give me this first object. and I can say .id because I have ID here. I can say .type, I can say .url, I can say .slug. Does this make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm able to do that. It's because it's inside the API that we got.
Yeah.
So we have a key. So we can remove the console log here. So we can remove the warning, sorry, to be more precise. Now let's go and sort of display an image. And the way I'm actually not sure how we can display an image, but there is this URL.
You have URL, yeah.
Yeah, so let's experiment with that. Let's store as a global variable. Let's say temp.
URL inside IMG URL.
Yeah, let's just let's say we never sort of did that. Let's sort of experiment with that. Whoa, seriously, that's. Let's let's try this URL property. So let's say image URL equal gif.url, and it's gif.url because the gif has a URL in the object here. So now I am ready here to say props and return an li with an image, an img. And when I say source, I fucked it up. I can say source equal props dot image URL, and it's image dot image URL because I named it image URL here. If I will do this, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because that URL is not a proper image URL. That's like a web page.
Yunus, can I ask you a question here?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so why are you storing this image inside props, but why didn't you choose a state?
What do you mean?
Okay. Here, the image URL is equal to gif.url, right?
Yes.
So here, when you access it in Giphy item property, you access it like props.image URL. So
Yes.
which means it's a property.
Yeah.
Why is it not inside a state, or why
It is
why this
inside
is
state.
as
It is inside state. It is GIFs are inside the state, inside Giphy list state.
yes,
But
yeah.
if I want to communicate with a different component,
Mhm.
the only way that two components can communicate is by passing information to each.
Yeah.
So I want to give the Giphy item an image. How to give
Yeah.
it an image is by using a property.
Yes, right. Yeah.
That's
get it.
that's the thing. So if we go back to our thing here, if we go to network and we go here and damn it, it's a sharp. Yeah, we go here. We have data. We have 0 gif URL. URL. We said this is not valid because that's stupid. It is not valid because it's the URL to the web page that holds the image, and we don't want that. We want the URL for the image, and the URL for the image is inside images. So if we go to gif.images, we have this object, and it has so many formats. There's like big format, small format, downsized, MP4, video, fixed. So we can say maybe no, not looping, but maybe we can say yes, this for 480 still. You can choose any every one of them has a downsized URL, fixed height URL. So it's really up to us. If you want to make it fixed height, original, big, it's really like an API sort of concern. How the image, how you want to display. You can get it original, which is could be big, small. I would say maybe we can take fixed height.
Maybe it is not related to this topic, but I am curious to know how image have so many things like downside large, fixed height,
Because they
original.
convert it. They convert the image. They every time somebody uploads an image, they convert it.
So they crop the same image and they download again so many sizes.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly. The same thing with YouTube. I upload one video, but you can select the qualities.
but is it automatic or manual?
They do it. It's on their server. They handle it. The people who build the server of YouTube, the people who build the server of Kifi, they do it. Not us.
Yeah, they do it, but is this automatic or is this manual work?
I will surprise you and say something. There is nothing automatic in the world of development. Nothing is automatic. There's no such a thing. What we build automation. We are the developers who automate. We don't get something automated. We never do that. So this question, if you have a video, the computer will not go for itself and create videos for you.
Yeah.
This doesn't work. So we are the people responsible for automation, but
Okay.
nobody is here to automate for us.
Okay.
So it's not automated. You need to handle it yourself. The same way with Netflix, they have the video with so many qualities and with so many sort of voiceover, like recorded, and they mix match them. You can get an English film with a French voice or an English film with an Arabic voice. So it's something they do, and it's the same thing here if you think about it. It's just different sizes for the image. So as we said, we can pick one of these. I picked the fixed height still, and we can take URL from it, and we can take .url from it. And we have these now. Some cute kitties. That is nice. This one is really nice. Yes, so I will just do format document. Okay, looks it's formatted. Yeah. So also what we need an alt attribute. Are you all familiar with the alt attribute in the image?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an accessibility thing. So imagine that if somebody cannot see the image, if he's blind or he has like an impairment like in his eyes or something, or if the image doesn't get loaded, you want to sort of show a description for the image. That's what the alt attribute for. And if we come back here to network, we can say here the data, the images. No, we can here say, for example, it's title. We can use the title. So we can say here alt image alt equal or alt. I think we can also convert this retarded URL.
What is slug, Yunus?
Slug is like a short URL based identifier. So for example, instead of saying for example a blog post about like JavaScript, like JavaScript event loop or JavaScript promises, you can have in the URL like /blog/1234. So slug is a text-based reference for something. So you can say JavaScript blog URL something. So that's what slug means. It's just an identifier that it's used. Like you can see here, it's an ID here, but a slug is a much better text like representation of an ID. That's like, it's a better ID. It's an identifier, but it's a human readable identifier.
Okay.
It's used in blog posts and things. If we go here, we can take this all here and say, no, we don't need that. Sorry, we just need give.title. And we have image URL. I changed the name, and here we can say props.image alt. And we have that now. If we look at this, we have an image and this. Maybe we can do some CSS so we can put them in a grid. I will just do some simple. So I will say class name. Yes, did we discuss class? So if you want to use class in React, it is actually not a good idea. You should name it class name. It is exactly the same as class, but it's better named class name. It's because React can avoid the confusion between this class and this class. It is not really something you need to know more about, but because of this problem that we are writing HTML inside JavaScript, React decided to go with class name. So class name and class, they are literally the same. I can give it a name here and say grid list. And take this class name, and here I can target it the same and say dot grid list display flex. And we can say here flex wrap, no wrap. What? Oh, I think it's wrap. It's wrap, yeah, exactly like this. And we can remove the margin and the padding, and we say margin 0, padding 0. And we can say list item, list style type, none. And we have this. If we also say grid list li, padding and margin 0. I don't understand why this li has some sort of... It's pretty weird, but yeah, well, we are good with that. So does this make sense? What-
Jonas, we put GIF, right? They are not playing. Does that they are GIF, right? They're supposed to be played, and if not, are they JPG?
They are actually, yes, but I think it's just a matter of how we sort of like it's the image that we get. So I'm actually not sure how to. Usually, like I play GIFs with an MP4 format, so but I can actually Google it. I just don't remember because yeah, you are actually right. So we can say image tag GIF. That's like a famous question. It's just showed to me. We have, let's say GIF. Oh, it doesn't seem like there's any answer here. Image tag loop GIF. Oh, we have 7. Makes sense. So it doesn't seem that the image tag handle looping.
Because we did fetch. We all worked with the Jiffy API in JavaScript, and the GIF was playing perfectly. But here in React, it is not.
Yeah,
So
but React doesn't have anything. Remember, React doesn't have anything to do with sort of these details. Because if we take this, it should play. Ah, damn it! Don't tell me that they are actually not. So it is actually. Oh yeah, makes sense. So it's because we network. Let me just do something. Data images. Downside on preview web or remove MP4. Yeah, the problem is that the format that we... Okay, this one looks good. Which one we picked? We picked
The first one.
Yeah, it's fixed with small. So we can go here and say with small. Yeah, now they are playing. But I think that's really ugly, honestly. I really want them like one size. So yeah, so it is actually supported. It's just a matter of picking the right thing. So I picked the static one. I picked the one with a specific height.
Okay.
That makes sense. And I think let's stick with that. So it will produce a better UI. Otherwise, you can also pick the other one and also go and style it with CSS and give them all equal height with CSS. But that I think you know how to do that. Just give them equal height with CSS.
One small question more. You limit the number of images per, to display from 0 to 19, like 20 for 20 images. What if I want to put pagination and I want to show 10 images per page, but the page will be same and on
Yeah,
click?
I will. I will. It's a good exercise if you want to do. I will not go that far because also like I will not sort of burn sort of the learning phase that you are going to. But I can also say page 1 here, and I have 2 buttons here, one called next and one called previous.
Okay.
When I called next, I will do set state to change page.
Okay.
And do a new fetch request and say here offset. It's called offset.
Okay. For every page, we need to fetch again.
Exactly, yeah, because you can only. It's not good to fetch 100. You will you will kill the bandwidth of the user. But let's do something more interesting. Let's build an input that will actually sort of search for the GIF. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let's here. Let's say, for example, const gives JSX equal, or let's say let, and here we can say, or I think what we can do better. I will just stop doing this and say return. Of course, this will be ignored. We will get back to it, and let's say form. Okay, and we say on submit. We can say this dot handle submit, and we can say handle submit is an array of what I'm doing. We can say handle submit is an arrow function, and we can have an input here. And we'd say name equal search term, and value equal to what? We do exactly what Brandon was explaining before. We store it in the state and we say search term. We start with an empty string. We say value is empty string, and we say on change this dot change search term. We create a new function called change search term. It's an empty function, and it will exactly do this dot set state search term, and says e here e dot target dot value. Does this make sense? And we say here state search term search term. Does this make sense? We submit. We didn't handle it yet, but this is just an input that I can type to it and it will change. I hope it makes sense. And I get the input here. So I will click, I will put a button next to it. And we say input, type, submit, value search. Does this make sense?
I would like to see what you're going to do with the change search term.
It is
Doesn't make
exactly,
sense.
it's just setting the e.target the value. That's the only thing that I'm doing with the change search term.
Okay.
So it's just a way so I can store the search term inside my state. Does that make sense?
Yes, I thought that when I was changing the state, everything that I put that it was equal to, I have to include it in the methods that I use to work with that.
I'm not actually.
This makes sense.
Can you just recap that again? I don't understand.
No, it's okay that I thought if I define state like GIF, it's loading and search term.
Yeah.
In every time I was accessing this, I have to modify the three of them.
No.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah, but it makes a lot of sense now.
Exactly. It's
Sorry.
like it merges the old with the new. It's like old state and like this. So,
Perfect, but if I don't put the three dots and I just call one.
no, I mean by default it does that. By default it puts three dots under it. That's how you should think about it. It means it will add this one under here. So this one will override only this one, not these two.
Perfect, thanks.
Yes.
Maybe I just.
Welcome. So yeah, we have that, and let's do one little trick. I think that's pretty nice. That for example you can do here. Search for, and we can do this. Search for. Search term. And if we put this in between parentheses, we can say search for test.
Nice.
This is quite nice. How keeping everything inside the state allows you to just do so many things, like really easy. That's what I was trying to explain before. It's like putting everything inside the state. Because before, if you want to get this search term, it means you need to do query item by ID and it's like all that shenanigans to be able to put it here. And that will just like make the app like a spaghetti. Like seriously. Yeah, so this is pretty nice. And yeah, so what we can do now is handle submit, and we have the event here. And as we said before, we don't want it to reload the page, so we can say event.prevent default. So now if I will say search, it doesn't do anything. So I am now actually responsible for changing and fetching a different thing. So every time you tap something, I want to search for different. So instead of searching for this now, I want to search for the new thing. And the same way we did with component did mount, we will do it with also component did update. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say this dot set state we will say is loading is true, and we say search. We keep search term in a different way, and we say here we don't need to do that. Do we need to do that? Yeah, I think we need to do that. We need to keep it separate. So let's say we can call it, for example, API search term. I'm afraid that this way would really confuse you. I'm not sure if I should stick to the simple way. Yeah, I think we can just do this dot state dot is loading true and extract this to a separate method and say function We don't need function. Damn it. I always get confused. We can say fetch fetch Giphy. Fetch Giphy. We can do this. And here we just call the this.fetch Giphy. This is no real change. This is only for making it clear. So we can call it from different places. So we can say this.state is loading true, and we say this.fetch Giphy. Does this make sense? What we did here? When you submit, we say, oh, he submitted. Now we are loading, and we will start fetching Giphies. Does this make sense?
I have a question.
Yes.
In fetch Giphy,
Yeah.
in the part where we have cats, shouldn't we put search term?
Exactly. We need to do that. So here we cannot search for cats. We need to search for this.state .search term. Does this make sense?
Yes, but maybe once we do a trial, we can do this thing where you review and said, first I do this, then I do that, and that would be nice.
Yes. So, and just before doing that, let's put all this in a div. And we close the div over here. We say format document. What was not done?
Once you're done forming that, there's just one small little typo, I think, with your Giphy fetch Giphy function, although I'm not sure if it's intentional, for example.
Search, is it the search term or what? Like,
I just think you'd probably want to be passing in as an argument. Otherwise, you're going to be fetching on every. Oh no, I guess not. Never mind. That probably works. Because I was just thinking every time you search, it's gonna. Yeah, but that's not going to happen. Never mind.
cool.
Ignore me.
Yeah, I will not. But
Yunus, it is necessary to keep the prevent default in 42 line.
if you will not put a prevent default,
Yes.
it will reload the page.
Okay.
If you will do this, it will reload the page. Do you see the page reloading? Because by default, forms reload the page.
Okay.
So we say prevent default means we are preventing the default of the browser. We stop the default of the browser. If that makes sense. I don't know why my auto formatter doesn't really work for some reason, but yeah, let's forget about it. So we have this, and now under it, what we can do is so we can say here let me just structure this piece of JSX. What we can do here is we can do ternary operator and say if it's loading, we do this. If it's not, we do this. And we can say format document and we get that. Does this make sense? Especially the JSX part? That we are saying render the form always, but if it's loading, render this. If it's not loading, render this. Yes, nice. So now let's just, I will get this form and I will say, I'll just do some styling. I'll say form, font size, 2 rem. Okay, let's say this input. Nice. Now it's super big. Super cool. That's what I wanted to do. It's super ugly, but it's super good. So we can say form margin bottom. We can say 1 rem. 0. Yes, that's nice. This is better. This is like super ugly. So if we start, for example, searching for cats, and we say search for cats, we get cats. If we say search for I don't know, dogs, we get dogs. If we say COVID-19, and I don't want to write corona, I think that would be super inappropriate. That's also some memes about corona. Does this make sense actually? Like functionality wise and stuff like that?
Yes. Can we look at the code?
Yes. But I like did it like what we tried to do, like me and Brandon and Fernando until now, did it make sense with this example? Did it show you the power of React and how React is such like sort of flexible thing that you can use to build so many sort of advanced things in a simple manner?
Perfect for me. I kind of get everything on a straight line now.
Yeah, because like you see that everything is manageable. I know exactly what's get updated and when it's get updated and when it's fetched and when it's not, I can change. For example, this change here, it was like completely trivial. We did it in 5 seconds. We can start fetching now on, if I will move this, if I will this handle submit, if I will move this to also here, this code here, I'll be able to search while typing.
Okay, that's cool.
Wow.
This is the thing.
Because
You have
every time,
explained it wonderful, but if I need to do it, good luck. I'm gonna be like, guys, been this week just struggling
Yeah.
a lot.
But honestly, but it kind of makes sense. Like it's you're not expected to be like sort of the advanced thinker of something after 2 or 3 weeks of using it. That's how life works. Like I also like I kind of it took me a lot of time to be really comfortable with React, and I'm still learning. I'm really still learning until now.
But it's super frustrating. Super frustrating.
But that's
Yeah.
learning. That's why you should embrace learning. Don't make it a frustrated experience. You are developing yourself. Make it an enjoyable experience.
No, I'm frustrated because I'm not able to understand some simple things. That's why I'm frustrated, because I'm not able to understand some simple things that I've done before. Now it just doesn't come together for
Yeah,
some
but
reason.
it's really not simple. It's one of the most difficult things to do is not learning difficult concepts. It's changing fundamentally how your mind does things. That's what's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, learning a super difficult concept, you can learn it by time. But changing fundamentally how your mind works, that's a sort of an achievement. That is like really difficult to do.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is what I want to review. 2 things. First, can you explain, okay, when you type, which parts of the code start to interact together? So first it goes to app,
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
that I like when you do that, because then I understand how the computer thinks. If you
Yeah,
want.
let's take it for the spin. Like let's take it for a spin and see how it works. First thing we render is app. App is super simple. It just returns Giphy list. And it stops. Giphy list is this component. When React is about to render Giphy list, it will first go to the render. Or before the render, actually, it will assign state, because state is first. So it will make GIFs an empty array, is loading true, and search term is empty. And after that, it will go to the render. The render will take is loading GIFs and search term, which is what we assigned here. We have an empty array is loading and search term empty string. We render this div with a form. And we get the form here. After that, we render this. Is loading is true, so we render the h1 instead of this. That's the first time you land into the page. After that, React will go and call component did mount. And by calling component did mount, React will do that. This fetch Giphy will be called.
But then it will, if I don't type anything, it's gonna stop.
If you don't type anything here,
If I don't request any search term.
No, but it will call this by default on the component did mount. And
But
it
it's
will-
not gonna bring anything. That's my
what?
Yes.
It will, because so if let's backtrack, let's go one step later. It will call the render.
Mhm.
After the render, it will call component did mount. Component did mount will call fetch Giphy. Fetch Giphy, it's here. It will say fetch gifs this.state.search term. This.state.search term is empty. So it will search for an empty string. And this is a bug, and probably we need to fix it. Let's
that's yeah.
let's say, because now let's say const query equal this.say.search term. If it's there, oh, now we can do this. Take either this.state.search term. If it's undefined, take for example superhero, and we use it here. So now the first time we load, it will search for Batman and stuff like that.
It's like adding a default prop.
Exactly.
default state.
It is a default value.
Mhm.
It's like take this, otherwise take this. So backtrack. We have the render. We render. We go to component did mount. We go to fetch Giphy, sorry. It will call this. This will check this.state.search term. If it's an empty string, it's false, and false means we will take this. So query will be equal to superhero. We say fetch gifs, and we give it a query, which is superhero. It will call this method. It will do a fetch URL, get the response, transform the response into JSON, and once we get that JSON, which is the body, we say this.state gives the request that we got, and is loading, we say it's false. Because we did a set state, means React will do an update or a re-render. That means we will call re-render again. This time with gifs is a full array. Search term is still empty. Is loading is false because we set it to false here. We render the form again, super trivial. Is loading is false, so we go to the second part, and this will map over the array of the gifs and render multiple Giphy items here, which is an li with an image, and the image will be responsible for displaying the image. Until now, does it make sense? This is the first part. This is the first type. Does this make sense? Nice.
Yes.
Let's go to the second part, which is when a user tries to type. So whenever a user types in this input, we change the state. User types this input, we change the state. What we don't do anything. We just type, we don't do anything. We just re-render. This will re-render. This will re-render every time we type because we call set state. But because the gifs didn't change and stuff, React is smart. It will not do anything. It will look like nothing changed, but we are actually re-rendering. And you can see here that search for is actually changing because we are re-rendering. Once we click the submit button, which is this button, we will call this one handle submit. We will prevent the default. So we stop the browser from reloading the page, which is the default behavior of the browser. So we prevent the default. We stop the default behavior of the browser. We say this.state loading true. It means we flip it to true, so we can see this loading again. And we say fetch Giphy. If we click now, it's loading. We don't have anything, but if we can say test, what's happening is that this dot loading will be true. We will call Giphy again. Once we call Giphy again, we call this. This dot state dot search term, is it empty? Is it false?
No.
It's not, because we typed something.
Mm.
So it will not take superhero, it will take the existing search term. It will fetch again and set the state to false again. So from loading to non-loading, and it will set the new array, the new data that we fetched. Because before we fetched superhero, now we fetch test or cats. and this will cause a re-render, and we will update this, and we will update this again because this is false. So we will return this, and we have a new GIF list. This is the full life cycle of what's happening inside the app, all the code path.
I'm just going to repeat this like 10 times when I get the video.
Nice.
Because in that way, it's getting the logic.
Exactly. You can train your mind into like being a friend with React, like seeing the world from how React sees the world, if that makes sense. Because that's the crucial point, is having the same eyes as React.
Okay.
Because now you have your own eyes and React have his own eyes, so you are sort of seeing the world from a different perspective. So when React calls or does something, you will not sort of like, that's true, that's not right. So try to align, like to be aligned or like the same sort of eyes or the same thing.
Yes.
Do you have any questions? I can see that you have any questions, which is yeah.
I don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
I think we need time to digest
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot.
Yeah,
That's what I'm putting
Just-
my face. My face
Like,
speaks way
I
more than what
I
I can
got
say.
everything. I followed step by step. No doubt now. But I will rewrite the class and will redo everything, and I will probably get some questions. But for now, it's clear.
Yeah.
But Yunus, one thing, like when you were explaining me the flow and how everything starts and from there where it goes. So I understand everything, but when I have my index.js and when I start,
Yeah.
so the first thing I have to do this, even when I remember how the flow has to go,
Yeah.
I'm just not able to type anything. The sense, okay, I have my React DOM, that's okay, but I don't know, somewhere in my mind, even though if I think that I understand the logic, but without referring your video or without referring some blogs or some videos, I cannot do it.
But if you,
No way.
but if you really think about it, that kind of makes sense, no? Like you are not expected to be fully fluent in something unless. So there is a huge difference between understanding how something operates and you operating it by yourself and by your mind.
Yes.
So now you are getting the how part. Like, does this make sense how it works? But the only way to be able to be like autonomous in your mind on doing it is by doing it a lot of times. And as you said, following a lot of blogs and referring to videos. So you build a muscle memory on how the things work together.
Yeah.
So it is, you should not really sort of go harsh on yourself and say that, oh, this is too difficult, I am not spending enough. No, it's like as long as you are spending enough energy and enough time and showing confusion, that's a good sign, because it's really dangerous when you don't understand how difficult things are. So it makes sense that you see this difficult. Like if React or programming was something easy to pick and everybody can learn in a couple of days, the world
Yeah.
would be a different place.
That's true.
So
Can I add something else?
yes.
Actually, what I'm doing in these recent weeks is that solve a problem and then delete everything and start again making it.
That's
It's like
that's really good advice.
yeah, try to practice and practice more and more.
That's
Okay.
really good advice.
I know we are a little bit over the time, but I got a question about line 63, because it's a little bit hard for me to understand why you are mapping over the component and how you choose to define the keys and all those things. If you don't want to take time for it, maybe I can try to use an article.
Let's
But
let's
this is new for me.
Let's do something. Officially, the class has ended. You can go. You can do your homework. So if somebody wants to leave, you are free to leave. But we can still. I'm still staying here. If somebody has a question or something, should we do it this way? So we don't like. If some people wants to leave, you are welcome to leave. It's officially sort of done. But if some people still have questions, I still have time to sort of go over it.
Yeah,
Is-
for me, it's just that one. And of course, I don't want
I'm
to
just
go
sort
over
of like
the rest.
announcing for people if they want to leave or something. But I will start explaining that in a bit. Yes. So this line, we can sort of see it as this. Render a component for each item in the array.
Mhm.
Does this make sense? We
Yes.
have the gifts map, we have gifts list, array, we map over it, and we take a gif once at a time, once at a time, once at a time.
Mm.
For each one, we do this. If I can just downscale it into this. For each one, we render an item. Does this make sense? That we need an item for each GIF?
Yes.
Okay, that is nice. We need the key. Why do we need the key? This is something React needs. It's not. It's a requirement of React. Why it's a requirement? Because React, if you have really large lists, it will try to optimize them. I don't want to go into details about that. You can refer to, we can discuss that. The gist of it is that please try to mute your mic if somebody's moving. If you have a really large list, key is used to optimize the every item in the array. Let's say you have 1000 items and you delete the item number 500. Because of the key, React will be really smart on how to update and which item was deleted. It will easily detect that. Because it will see that the item with 500 is missing key, it's deleted. That's why we need the key. The key is not really something we do in our app. The key is something that we help React with to optimize it. Does this make sense?
Totally.
GIF.id. Why I am doing that? Because it's an array. It will give me a GIF. Each GIF is an object, and it has an ID property inside it, and it's unique per GIF. That's why I choose it, because keys needs to be unique. If I want to identify an item in the list by something, it needs to be unique. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, this Giphy item, it needs an image URL. So I decided to give it an image URL as a prop. I could name this image, I could name it source, up to me, or up to the person building the thing.
Mhm.
And because it's an object, it has images inside it, and images is also an object, and it has fixed height still inside it as we were looking. It's not something we decide, I just explored the array, the object. So I found that it needs to be this way. And I also use the image alt as a title. I use the title as the image alt. Now if I will go to the Giphy item, I will say li image, and I extract these two props that I passed, here and here.
That's how you give it the props.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't follow that actually the props were coming from the end of the other component.
Yes, so now the full list or the full action is like this.
La.
Does this make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
I have a question now.
Yes.
Okay, so why are you calling the component in the map, but why can't you do the map itself inside the component? So it makes our understanding easier, right? In the sense, inside the Giphy item component, why can't you do the map?
Valid question.
Because it's called the Giphy item, not Giphy list items.
Okay, let's change the name then. No, why I'm saying this is because
Let's do this. Let's so Giphy list items. Or we can say this and we say Giphy list. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we can move this map or all the
Maybe in the UL, yeah.
we can move all the UL, and we say Giphy list, and we give it the
I think it was Giphy list item, the new one.
it's called GIFs, and we say GIFs. And here we can say return this.
Yeah.
Props. So instead of let me just format it and format it here. We can say props.gifs.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think more easier this way. I don't know why, but I can relate to it very well than that.
Yeah.
It's the same. I understand it's the same.
Yeah. And you said something before that it's Giphy list item, which is right. And I was just trying to sort of speed up to something.
Can you have this part of the code also, please, so that
I am keeping it this way, and I will copy this file and go to the Slack and paste it there.
Thanks, Amelia. For good props, and this is the last thing I will bring up. For good practice, what I notice in the videos is that they will put each component in a different GS file.
Yes, straight away.
And I did that.
Yeah, don't put components in the same file. It's just so you can follow me instead of switching files.
Okay, because I saw people deliver the homework like that, but in the practice videos, is, for example, Giphy list is one GS file, Giphy item is another one. Perfect. So we keep that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's just, yeah, exactly. Like there is a rule that is called one component per file.
Jonas, I have a question about files. I found in Visual Studio Code two kinds of files, one JavaScript and another kind of React JavaScript files. What the
JSX files.
Yeah, what's the difference between?
Because I've explained this before, and technically there is no difference, technically speaking, because an extension doesn't matter for the computer. But because some people think that this syntax is not pure JavaScript, like this, it is not valid JavaScript. It's called JSX. This will not run in the browser. This is a custom JavaScript. So they decided to create a new extension for it.
Okay.
So that's the reason. So some companies, the companies that I used to work before, like when I was working for Karnov, we were using only JS. They said it's stupid to have JSX files. That doesn't make any sense. But now at Danske Bank, they prefer to have JSX instead of JS. So it is really.
So if I write, for example, the same code with the GS and the GSX, so the same reaction, the same result?
Yeah, here it's the same, but some companies, they do some script that really custom.
Okay.
Okay, it's the same.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it's really what's happening inside the files, the build tool, what's running your files. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it's not. But technically speaking, it doesn't matter. File extension doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Speaking, you can write JavaScript in a file called .html. You just need to sort of change how, like VLC or a video player can run an image if it's encoded as a. It's just extensions don't really matter. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Yunus, I have a last question.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted. I'm asking this question because I want to know how you thought about it. Okay, yes. The question is, why didn't you do this map separately in a component before? Why did you do it the way that you did previously? Why did you do that?
I didn't want to have 3 components. I said 2 components are quite enough. That's the only reason.
Okay.
So, but if this map was really complex and big, I would have extracted into separate components.
Okay.
So don't follow my logic like a prophet. Like it's not like 100. It's really up to you. That's what I think.
No, I just want to, I'm also seeing how you think, and I also saw how Braden was working, and I saw a few videos and blogs. I just want to get exposed to.
Yeah, for me, I like to have as less complexity as possible in components. So I'm always breaking them down so they don't get complex. 30, 40 line, change a component. 30, 40 line, change component, something like that. if you don't have any more questions, I think we can just close this up for today.
Thank you so much for today.
Of
Thank you,
course.
thank you. It was a great class.
Yeah, it was really a nice class. A lot of things got cleared up, and Braden was nice. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah,
really so
thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
And
Have
for
a great
staying
Thanks a
longer.
lot from me too.
Yes. Take care. And if you have anything,
Bye.
just write us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Mhm.